We filed, four of us, in a bipartisan way, two Republican and two Democratic representatives filed House Bill 1183, and the purpose behind 1183 was to recognize that in North Carolina, the ones who were truly sort of innocent, caught in the middle folks between the issues of legality and illegality, between the issues of work or no work, are the children who have, of all the people involved, done absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, they have in most cases done everything right and everything we've asked of them. So what 1183 was designed to do was to be a good piece of economic and educational and social policy. It was designed to allow children who have spent at least 4 years in North Carolina in school, graduated high school, academically qualified for college admittance, receive that academic college admittance on their own merit, and would agree to file a petition or affidavit seeking United States citizenship as soon as the law and the time frame allow them to do so. That for those children, once admitted into a university or community college in this state, that they would in fact be allowed in-state tuition so as to be able to have some chance of being able to afford to go to school and lead incredibly, we hope, incredibly productive lives, not only for themselves, but for society.
When the bill was introduced at a press conference in April, we were so excited. I guess we had about 8 to 10 students with us who had been helping us to get this bill introduced. We walked into the General Assembly with these kids, and they were in their suits and in their, best clothes to walk into the General Assembly, and they were so excited. And we had Governor Hunt standing up there, and 2 Republican and 2 Democrat sponsors standing up there at the General Assembly saying things like, I knew when I took this position 3 years ago that I would have to take a stand on something that was unpopular. And this is something that I have to take a stand on because it's the right thing to do. To have a legislator in North Carolina standing in the General Assembly and saying that about our kids, it was priceless. And the kids to have sat there and listened to legislators saying that about them and about their value in North Carolina, it was just invaluable. And so we left there, and I remember turning to my executive director and saying, man, this was a wonderful day. And it really was. We were so excited. And it was that week, within days, that the hate erupted. It started with the emails and the phone calls. Emails saying things like, this country was built for European Americans, not a bunch of third world sheetrock hangers that made it across the border and dropped a litter of babies. Emails that said things like, you better stop what you're doing now or you're going to get a bruising. Phone calls to the legislators' homes, phone calls to my executive director's home, threatening her home, threatening legislators' families. The hate was just tangible, and it was such a groundswelling of it that we were floored. We didn't expect to have to install security cameras in our office or have the State Bureau of Investigation monitoring the emails that we were getting. And then it wasn't long before we had to consider what this meant for the community. If we were being threatened, if we were afraid, what was happening to the students in the schools, in the neighborhoods, in the workplace, when so much hate was spewing out of North Carolina, out of so many communities. What was going to happen to the community at the ground level? It became clear that North Carolina wasn't ready.
As I got into the UNCW system, I started understanding that we had a great population of Latinos here. When I say a great, I mean some really wonderful people here. We could identify the young folks in the school system, that we could encourage them to go on for further education. Of course, then comes the stumbling block of, okay, we've identified these youngsters, now how do we fund their education? Where we can have the business leaders understand what's going on and come up with a way to raise and consistently raise dollars that are being put into this scholarship fund. If southeastern North Carolina, if the United States does not wrap their arms properly around the Latino communities that we have in this country, we will regret this for many, many years.
From a social perspective, if we don't educate those children, it's not as if they're leaving. Their family is here. The federal government is not engaging in any significant deportation policy. And so we have those children. And as long as the federal government can't decide what the immigration policy of this country is going to be, then as a state, we have the byproduct, the collateral consequence of dealing with the humanity, the human issues that result from that lack of a federal policy. And the most critical ones to us were the children.
I don't want us to turn our back on a whole segment of our population and to alienate them. Our history, world history, tells us what happens when we disenfranchise and alienate a section of the population. We can turn these beautiful children who have so much possibility into frustrated and angry adults.
This is America. We are a land of immigrants. You know, they come from all over. The Statue of Liberty says, give me your hungry, your huddled masses, give them to me. You know, this is what America is. And it really grieves me because I love America. To me, it is the greatest country in the world. I am true American. I'm first generation American. Why am I so patriotic? Why? Because my Mexican parents came over here because they were very poor, looking for an opportunity to make a better life for themselves and for their families. And so they're illegal? No, they're not illegal. They're desperately trying to make a better life.
For the little kids that are young right now, they are the future of this country and for Mexico, so they better go in school and try their best to achieve what their parents could not achieve because their parents came here for them. So they should try their best because nothing's impossible. If something can be done, it can be done in the U.S. since in many countries there's a lack of opportunities for children or people that desire education.
Basically what I wanted to be was an advocate for Hispanic people in the United States so they don't get taken advantage of, because those people, they work tiresome hours and they get paid a really low wage and nobody ever speaks out for them. And I just wanted to be somebody who did that for the Hispanic community, you know, which is why I wanted to go to college.
I would love to be an advisor to one of our presidents and get there, make him to understand, to see that these kids are so Americanist, having adapted to this culture, and they don't see a future in Mexico, they see it here. I have a lot of friends that wants to be engineers, computer techs, nurses, dental hygienists, and they're not doing it just for the Hispanic community, they're doing it for the whole society. So I will be an advisor to either a governor or a president and make them see my culture, and not just mine, but everybody else's.
La vida para los hispanos no es fácil.
La vida quizás no es fácil.